By daylight, the Silk Road sold silk, spice, and safe passage. By night, a second road unrolled in shadowside alleys, back rooms, and desert rendezvous where ledgers lost their names. Smugglers moved forbidden texts, counterfeit seals, and poisons in tiny vials. Border lords skimmed tribute, and caravans carried rumors worth more than jade. In brazier light, oaths traded like coin, and one wrong witness could cost a city. We trace contraband routes that braided empires, caravanserais with hidden vaults, tax books scraped thin, relics that changed hands twice before dawn. Who profited? Who vanished? And why do these markets echo whenever empires clench a fist? If this forbidden past grips you, subscribe and stay with us. Before we set off, mark your starting point. Tell us your city, country, your local time, where you're watching from and what you're doing. Then type "ready" or drop us so we know you're on the trail. Start at a gate, a board of rates, a scale, a bench worn smooth by elbows, a brazier that smokes more than it warms. The officer looks bored. The clerk looks busy. The porter looks everywhere and nowhere at once. You can smell ink, dust, and something sweet in a jar that is labeled lamp oil. The board says what the empire wants. The room says what the road actually does. Empires draw lines. Traders draw routes. Between them, a second map grows. It is not on parchment. It lives in habits, in hand signs, in the timing between patrols, in a ledger written in 2 inks, in a seal softened under a blanket until the crack becomes a story that never happened. If the first map loves rules, the second map loves rhythm. Bands create margins. Margins invite methods. A prohibition on silk in one court raises its price on another dock. A tax on salt fattens the night traffic along a back canal. A decree about tea invents a profession called runner in a town that never thought it needed one. The road listens to edicts the way a sailor listens to wind. It adjusts its canvas and smiles without showing teeth. Look at the scale. It is honest in the morning. It grows human by noon. The weighmaster leans the way a thumb learns to lean. A dirham slides across a board as tea. He writes a number that matches the board and a memory that matches your favor. That is not chaos. It is choreography. You pay the lowest man who can stop the most trouble. A small coin to move a large cart. Goods learn to change names. A bale of raw silk becomes temple banners. A bar of metal becomes tools. A crate of indigo becomes gifts for the shrine. Words move faster than inspection. When a stamp meets a story, the guard remembers his aunt who prays there. He waves you through because the city must be seen to honor the gods. The temple takes no offense. The temple sells protection, the way it sells incense. Quietly, seals are the gate's face. So the second map studies faces. A true seal crushes ash from a hearth the gate knows by grain. A repaired seal eats breath and smoke until the seam feels like yesterday. Under a cloak, a woman warms the wax. A man presses the ring without tremor. Another dusts with soot from the same kind of fire the customs house uses. The trick is to copy the mistake, not the perfection. Auditors hunt perfection. Night is a tool. So is dawn. The caravanserai yawns after sunset. Lamps go out. A back gate opens to a lane that does not exist. Porters appear with backs that already know the weight. A bale leaves. Another, shaped the same, returns before first call to prayer. In the morning, the manifest matches the entry. The market has goods it did not receive. The steward shrugs and writes, carried in earlier. He is not lying as much as he is refusing to argue with a night that kept its promises. Bribes choose polite names. Tea, sweets, for the guardhouse. They slide at shift change when a captain's eyes are elsewhere. Big men are expensive and forgetful. Small men are reliable and need shoes for their children. The road pays where the hinge turns. Timing beats volume. The right coin an hour early saves 10 coins an hour late. The best coin arrives a week before a new tariff, purchased from a bored scribe as a copy for study. Double-bottom carts need skill, not bravado. Thin planks, quiet hinges, grain above, silk beneath. A driver who knows every rut and does not jolt the second floor into speaking. He drives through the gate in daylight and switches at a tannery lane 2 bends later, where smell is an ally. A partner takes the reins without a word. Strangers make guards curious. Familiar faces make them sleepy. Signals keep the second map in step. A chalk circle on a lintel means, do not use the east alley. A line means, Captain sober tonight. 2 lines mean, white week, when you pay the posted rate and reset suspicion. A lamp in a narrow window means the alley is clear. Words are dangerous. Lamps and chalk are loyal. Sometimes the sea is kinder than the street. A ship anchors 2 bends from a harbor. Small boats meet it near reeds. Bales move without drums. The manifest shrinks and becomes honest. The rest travels as alms. The harbor master counts storms that did not happen and writes, delayed for weather. He eats at a shop whose flour is cheap because the salt that bakes his bread arrived wet at night. The second map has rules. No knives, no debt to fools. No repeating a pattern that a clever clerk can learn. Never keep a false seal next to a sacred one. Do not teach a decoy everything. Do not rely on one patron. Governors change faster than caravans do. The road punishes arrogance and rewards patience. It remembers who kept it fed in a lean season. It forgets those who bragged. Officials are not a separate species. They are part of the weather. Some sell clarity. You pay me this much and I will never ask again. Some sell silence. You pay my cousin and the gate sleeps. A few are saints and sleep well without your coin. They exist, and their honesty is a rhythm too. The second map plots them like wells. You do not build a detour if you can cross at noon with a straight face. Crackdowns arrive like summer storms. Drums, bonfires of confiscated dye, edicts pasted in 3 scripts, new chiefs, audits that count cords and seals. The road does what it learned to do. White weeks, dawn transfers instead of night, smaller oases instead of famous ones, creeks beyond the harbor. A decoy cart burns bright so the report reads, vigilance. The real goods wait for the drum to tire. The Mongols arrive and change the light. Relays every day's ride. Fresh horses, couriers with tablets, paisas that say, do not delay. Partners of princes who carry exemptions like cloaks. Speed is a new coin. The second map does not die. It borrows the paisa. It adds 1 cart that is not on the list. It spells badly on purpose, so the auditor trusts the stamp more than the script. It learns to move like privilege. Later, when unity breaks, the old night returns. It knows where you hid. Ledgers write what mouths can't. 1 ink for totals, 1 for reminders. The red line says T at the south gate. It also says, do not use Moran when governors change. It says hide paper in hems, not belts. Boys learn to read the red out loud as notes for hospitality. A judge hears a poem where a nephew hears instructions. Both leave the room satisfied. Communities are the second map's true walls. No fortresses, kitchens, courtyards, shrines that lend canopies so a bale becomes devotion. A monk writes gift in 1 column and exchange in another. He does not always know what he protected. Enough due to keep the road open. A village that eats because a train made it through will not hurry to applaud a crackdown. It will remember who kept it fed. Morality lives in details, not speeches. A guard waves through a sack of medicine while he searches cloth. A clerk delays a wine shipment during a fast and writes observance. The same men take coins for things they ought not to ignore. The second map does not rank cargo. It prices it. The first map pretends not to know the difference. The truth is in the queue. Sometimes the road needs math. Split cargo into 3 shares. 1 legal, 1 shadow, 1 dormant. If a rumor turns hard, lose the shadow. If it fades, wake the dormant and pay the dues on a smaller legal load so the books look clean. Ratios appear as little notches on a slip of wood. A boy learns fractions by lifting sacks and listening to adults talk about patience as if it were a season. You may be imagining villains in dark cloaks. Put them away. Most of this is ordinary. It is the porter with cracked heels who knows when to look left. It is the clerk who writes the right word in the wrong column. It is the scribe who sells a copy for study. It is the widow who carries grain across a boundary at dusk because winter came early to her house. The second map is made of neighbors, not monsters. Listen to the gate at dusk. A horn. A laugh. A door shuts. The board of rates creaks as someone wipes dust from numbers that will not change until a new chief wants trumpets. The officer counts coins. The clerk ties a cord around a packet of receipts. The porter drinks water in the shade and watches the last two carts cross. He knows which one should not have been first. He knows why. He is not paid to tell you what remains after you leave the city. A chalk mark on a door. A hush signal in a tea room. A cart that turns right one lane early. A boat that waits for a cloud to cover a moon. A ledger under a mat. A word T that is not T. If you unfold the first map, none of it appears. If you walk the road by night, it is all you see. This is the second map. It is not a rebellion. It is a commentary. It corrects the distance between decree and diet. It smooths the hours where the first map is too sharp. It fattens when the first map grows loud, and thins when the drum rests. It teaches patience to the impatient. It punishes greed with accidents that look like weather. You want to know how it started. It started the day a tax met a desert and had to cross at noon. It started the day a clerk cared more for tea than terror. It started when empires learned to love seals and families learned to love breath. It starts every morning when someone reads a board and decides to move anyway. We will not linger in legend. We will count doors. We will follow paper. We will listen for the signal that is not written down. We will sit with the men who build lifts for bales, and the women who boil the wax that hides a seam. And when we stand again at the gate, we will know why the posted rates look tired and why the brazier smokes. The second map begins here. To see it clearly, walk one step inside the custom house. Read the rates. Read the words the empire uses for dues. Tamga, tariff, penalty, custody. Watch how a verdict becomes a stage direction at a door. The legal stage is where the choreography takes its cues. And the next time the horn sounds, you'll hear more than a note. You'll hear a schedule pretending to be law, waiting to be rewritten after dark. Begin with a board, numbers, units, a rate for silk by weight, a rate for wool by bundle, a line for miscellaneous. That means whatever the clerk can defend. The language changes from city to city. Tamga in one, mox in another. Dues, tolls, transit fees. Law speaks in columns. The road learns to answer in timing. A gate is a theater dressed as an office. The officer represents force. The clerk represents memory. The porter represents friction. Each wants different things. The officer wants peace. The clerk wants totals. The porter wants a day to end without trouble. Your cargo will pass or stop according to which one is fed first. Customs can be farmed. A governor leases the right to collect to a contractor. The contractor posts a bond and gets a quota. He has a short window to turn a profit. He raises clarity for those who pay and fog for those who don't. His receipts are tidy. His methods are not. When the lease ends, his habits remain. The next contractor inherits both the board and the workarounds. Custody is the real power, not tax. Custody, the right to hold a cart, the right to untie a cord, the right to make you wait until a captain returns from lunch. Time is a penalty that does not need parchment. A smart merchant budgets for it the way he budgets for rope. He buys time back in small coins with polite names. He buys certainty by becoming predictable. Everything hangs on paper. Permits, tallies, waybills, letters of passage. Paper says who you are, who vouched for you, what your bail claims to be. A proper waybill lists weight, origin, destination, and a seal count. The seal count matters. Seals are custody made visible. A broken seal is a story. A repaired seal is a better story. The clerk is paid to prefer the tidy story. Weights and measures promise fairness while selling discretion. A gate keeps official stones in cords. The stones live in a box with a lock. The cords are cut to a posted length. Everyone knows that sand sticks to wool and sheds from silk. Everyone knows that tear is a word that can fatten or thin a tax. The posted tolerance, 2 fingers, no more becomes a market by itself. Receipts are shields, paid at the West Gate. Exempt under treaty. For the ordu in one empire, for the temple in another. A stamp turns a confrontation into a nod. Stamps have ranks. A city stamp bends to a provincial stamp. A provincial stamp bows to a court stamp. The black market studies, which bow leaves the neck exposed. Guilds and shrines get lanes of their own. A guild affidavit can turn a bale of raw silk into weaver's input and cut a rate in half. A shrine's letter can turn cargo into devotion and move it faster than money can. Neither paper lies in its own eyes. Both sell cover as a community service. The law tolerates this because communities are cheaper to administer than soldiers. Schedules shape everything. Audits come after festivals. New rates arrive with new chiefs. Drums at the gate announce the first day of enforcement. The road knows these beats. White weeks appear pay full dues, reset suspicion. Black weeks appear search everyone, raise prices. A trader who can hear the calendar in the clerk's tone rarely pays the posted rate at the posted time. Penalties are elastic. Fines multiply per bale when the clerk is angry, and per shipment when he is not. Confiscations can be whole or token. A wagon of second-rate cloth burns for spectacle. The real bale pays double and goes through. The report reads, vigilant seizure. The ledger reads, business as usual. Jurisdiction is a maze. City law at the wall. Provincial law at the river. Court privilege across both if your paper says the right name. A caravan can be legal at dawn, illegal at noon, and legal again at dusk 3 miles down the road. The map on the wall is not the map outside. The second map grows in the gaps. There are legal shortcuts that teach illegal ones. Transit passes for urgent relief. Inspection lanes for trusted traders. Paisas in one age, badges in another. Privilege is a language the road learns fast. If a gate opens for the right tablet, someone will learn to borrow that tablet's grammar. The clerk will meet a document that looks just like the one he should obey, and his day will move on. Why does the black market exist here? In the open, within arm's reach of a brazier and a board of rates. Because rules make friction. Friction makes price. Price makes method. A ban on export at harvest creates a hunger for night. A quota on salt creates a math problem at scales. A requirement to register every bale creates a need for a cousin who knows when to look away. Chain of custody is engineered performance. The officer breaks a seal, confirms weight, checks cord numbers, and writes, received. He ties a new cord, presses a ring, and writes, released. The ledger now believes your bale has remained itself. The clerk is not paid to imagine a switch. He is paid to record a sequence. This is where the choreography starts. The law even teaches vocabulary for cheating politely. Spoilage, breakage, shrinkage, delay for weather. These words protect honest merchants from honest accidents. They also shelter deeds that are neither accident nor honest. The gate survives by treating both the same. If it began to distinguish, it would need new staff and fewer hours of daylight. Farmed customs push gray into black. A contractor must meet a number. He squeezes the poor because they complain quietly. He favors the rich because they introduce cousins. He offers clarity, a fixed rate below posted, paid in advance, no questions for a season. The house accepts. The law smiles. Revenue did not fall. The black market smiles. Uncertainty did. If the gate is an office by day, it is a set at noon. Drums for inspection. Seals lifted like curtains. A small crowd of porters in the shade, waiting for the clerk to point. He points where habit is already thick. He points where a staged seizure will read well. He points away from the cousin who arrived with a letter that can be defended aloud. The legal stage is efficient theater. It cannot afford improvisation. Notice the clerk's book. 2 inks, black for totals, red for reminders that look like neat housekeeping. Check chords at South Lane. Weight stones to be verified after solstice. Collector's cousin to be seen Tuesday. None of this is illegal. All of it is weather. The second map reads the red as forecast. Weighhouses sit next to gates. They sell official certainty in small portions. A merchant pays to weigh before the gate so he can argue with a number he trusts. The weighmaster sells numbers in silence. He knows which stone lives in which box. He knows that audits replace stones as often as governors replace chiefs. He knows that a private weight that matches a public one today will betray you next week. Lawyers exist, even here. They argue for exemptions you had not heard of. They know that a line about repairs for the fort can cover rope as well as iron. They find treaties you forgot and stamps you never saw. They save you coin this week and teach the second map a new lane for next week. The clerk sighs. His job just got harder. Your road just got smoother. Sometimes the system behaves well. Rates fall. Lanes open on time. Seals are pressed with care. When that happens, the second map thins. Traders keep to daylight. Porters sleep at night. The gate sees the world it wants to see. It does not last. A new governor arrives. A war needs money. A drought pinches grain. The board changes. The braziers smoke again. By now, you can hear the choreography inside the law. Posted dues, farmed collections, custody as weapon, seals as story, schedules as cover. None of this looks criminal from inside the office. It looks like administration. It is also the script the second map will borrow and bend after dusk. We are ready to step past the board, past the clerk, into the methods that make margins out of rules. False seals warmed under a shawl. Night transfers that leave no argument in daylight. Weights that smile for one eye and squint for another. The door to those tricks is just beyond the scale. It opens when the officer turns to cough. Start with the seal. It is custody made small. A circle of wax or clay. A ring with a flaw the clerk knows by touch. A cord counted, notched, and tied through holes that remember their knots. A bail becomes a sentence when the seal hardens. A bail becomes a rumor when it does not. A false seal does not chase perfection. It copies mistakes. The chip by the lion's ear, the crack that always runs left, the soot grain from a stove that burns pine, not oak. Under a shawl, wax softens with breath. A woman holds the ring while a man keeps time. Too fast, and the grain tears. Too slow, and a guard's lantern finds the shine. When it sets, a smear of ash dulls truth into yesterday. Auditors respect yesterday. There are quieter repairs, resin tinted with lampblack for cracks that begin to talk, a little flour in wax for a rougher face, a pinch of ash from the custom house brazier, stolen at noon to give the smell of familiar boredom, a cord retwisted from 2 old cords, ends spliced and rubbed with dust until the knot looks honest. The important thing is continuity. The clerk reads story, not chemistry. Paper learns from seals. A waybill that once said raw silk now says weaver's input. A crate once listed as indigo becomes dye for temple cloth. A letter of passage written with the stable hand of a cousin who watched the scribe's wrist for years. The script leans the right way. The ink dries the right color. The counter-signature is a mark a sleepy officer will accept because he has accepted it before. Night is not a mood. It is a tool. Lamps go out. Air cools. A courtyard behind a tannery breathes a smell that overpowers curiosity. A back gate opens on a lane with no reason to attract patrols. A bail leaves at the 6th hour after dusk. Another enters shaped the same, corded the same, labeled the same, weighed to a number learned by heart. The manifest wakes at dawn and matches what it must. The market wakes earlier and sells what it already has. Dawn is a cousin of night used by polite houses. Porters move in the blue hour when a captain yawns and eyes sting. A cart shifts loads inside a city so papers need not. The words stay still. The goods learn to dance. The clerk arrives at his desk, to a world already arranged. He likes that. It keeps numbers neat. Shadow weights do the rest. A scale is honest in public, flexible in shadows. Everyone knows tear exists. Few agree on its face. A savvy house dampens sacks just enough to give an honest drip and a dishonest pound. Another dries silk overnight to lose 2 fingers' worth and smiles when the posted rate measures air. A weighmaster's stones live in 2 boxes, one for inspection, one for business. The second map does not ask which is which. It pays for the right lid to open. The thumb is the oldest instrument. A little pressure as the beam steadies. A cough that lands like a pebble on one pan. A sleeve that accidentally nudges a hook. The thumb does not need courage. It needs timing. It moves when the officer turns to speak, never when he reaches for the pen. The clerk hears the number he expects. The road keeps the grain it needs. Cords count too. A bale tied with 4 turns at the north gate cannot arrive with 3 at the south. Cords become a language. 3 tight, 2 loose means open and reclose. 4 tight means do not touch. Knots tell family from strangers. A family knot has a flourish that does nothing and means everything. A stranger ties clean and gives himself away. Labels carry ideas across doors. For the Urdu, in 1 century. For the temple, in another. Relief supplies, in a time of drought. Repairs in a time of war. All carry speed. All carry cover. Once a label wins free passage, it becomes currency. Houses lend labels the way they lend coin. Interest is paid in favors, not metal. The ledger writes it in red where only sons read. Decoys keep reports fat and traders thin. A cart stacked with husks runs loud and obvious. It is searched, seized, paraded, and burned, while scribes sharpen words like vigilance. The real cargo sits in a cooled room, counting heartbeats. When the smoke clears, the gate needs lunch, and the road needs to move. Both get what they want. Double-bottom carts are night schools for carpenters. Thin planks, quiet hinges, a hollow undergrain. The driver knows ruts to avoid and guards who enjoy talk. He does not race, he does not boast. He nods at the officer who collects tea for the guardhouse, and never more. If stopped, he shows a manifest that tells a small truth loudly and saves the bigger truth for later. Boats learn similar tricks. A lighter meets a ship before the harbor light. Bales move near reeds. The harbor master records weather delay. The temple receives alms a day early, and the bazaar wakes to color that should have been at sea. Even if inspection comes, the labels preach virtue. Few officials argue with piety before breakfast. Signals keep blood out of talk. A chalk circle on a lintel means use the back lane. A cross means not tonight. 2 crosses mean count on bribes at the West Post. A lamp in a small window left of a door means patrol passed. A lamp to the right means still waiting. Porters learn this like prayers. Children recite it before they can count coin. Money behaves like language too. Big bribes are noisy. Small ones hum. Tea goes to the man at the hinge. Sweets to the boy who plays messenger. Charcoal to the clerk whose wife heats water. Payment happens at shift change, never at inspection. It happens a week before a new chief arrives, not a week after. It happens as a copy for study, not a bag under a table. Money dresses like paperwork to survive. Community is the best camouflage. Shrines lend canopies. Courts lend phrases. Guilds lend seals. A monk writes a letter for processional cloth. And a city of practical men respects the letter because their mothers would ask why they didn't. A guild elder certifies member materials, and a gate that needs allies says yes. None of this feels like crime to those who do it. It feels like decency paid forward. Some methods are older than the road. Split loads into thirds. One declared, one delayed, one disguised. If inspectors grow zealous, the disguise becomes donation. If zeal fades, the delayed becomes delivered with full dues and allowed receipt. Ratios are drawn on wood with small notches. The notches live in a pocket with a family ring. If a man is taken at a gate, his son can finish the week. There are books within books. The day book that faces auditors. The house book that faces sons. The third book that is never a book, only half phrases spoken in kitchens over steam. White week, 2 chords, East Lane sleeping. A wife hears and knows which jar to open for small coins, which cousin to send, which lamp to light. The second map recruits families the way armies recruit men. Forgers study boredom. They match the clerk's lazy loop on a certain letter. They add a smudge where the seal always kisses parchment. They scratch a line with a dull reed because the office ran out of sharp ones last month and has not said so aloud. The best forgeries feel tired. Tired feels real. Not every trick belongs to merchants. Warehouses sell certificates that anticipate tomorrow's number. Caravanseries rent secure rooms, whose locks are famous and whose windows are generous. Scribes sell copies in clean hands. Guards sell clarity, which is the art of never asking again once you pay the first time. Everyone lives. Everyone eats. The law remains on the wall. Religion complicates, and shelters, and tempts. A fast day slows wine and speeds grain. A feast day reverses it. Black markets read calendars like prices. They do not deal in blasphemy. They deal in timing, dressed as reverence. If a bale flies under a canopy as gift, a citizen watches and calls it good. The label earns another month of cover. Crackdowns rearrange methods, not motives. Curfews make dawn transfers fashionable. Surprise scales make pre-weighs profitable. Public bonfires make decoys cheaper than bribes for a month. Then ash thins, and numbers return to their old lanes. The second map trims its routes and waits like winter wheat under snow. You think this is all thieves and whispers. It is also survival. A widow moving grain at dusk because the posted rate would starve a child. A caravan skirting a band to feed a garrison that the band forgot. A clerk easing a seal for medicine he cannot afford and would not deny to his own mother. The law hates nuance. The road lives on it. We have not met the men who sell uniforms by the hour, or the bandits who prefer escort fees to blood, or the clerks who rewrite theft into amendments and sleep well. The methods you've seen need middlemen with badges and books. Listen for their boots. They wait just beyond the gate, where legality changes hands with a nod, and the next rule learns to bend. Begin with boots. They set the tempo, not the seal, not the stamp. Boots. A guard's tread tells you if today sells silence or theater. A shift that drags means questions are cheap. A march that snaps means the chief is counting raids. The second map hears this before the horn. Guards sell 3 products: time, clarity, and sleep. Time is a pause lifted for a coin with a polite name. Clarity is a season purchased in advance, one price. No questions. Show the receipt at the west gate and keep moving. Sleep is the best. A patrol that looks away at dawn because it was well fed at dusk. None of these are listed on the board. All of them are older than any tariff. Watch the chain. A captain wants clean reports. A sergeant wants calm barracks. A private wants shoes that do not leak. Money flows where the want is sharpest. A small coin to the private prevents a large coin to the captain, unless the captain's nephew runs the scale. Then the coin learns a new path. The road maps families like passes. Badges turn bandits into brokers. A pass on a leather thong, stamped with a mark everyone on one stretch of step recognizes. Show it and ride. Hide it and pay twice. The same men who lifted bales last winter sell escort this spring. They name their fee grass. It feeds horses and keeps knives inside sheaths. Governors call this extortion. Villages call it insurance. The ledger writes it as root assurance. There are tokens for this. A carved bone, a knot style that only the South Camp ties, a scrap of silk with an ember-burned corner, a frontier language made of objects, not stamps. When a train uses the token, it leaves a small bale at the third well. This is not theft. It is the toll that keeps the fourth well friendly. The law at the city has no column for wells. The second map does. Clerks perform a softer magic. They launder chaos into amendments. A crate that fell off a cart becomes breakage. A missing bale becomes shrinkage. A delay caused by a midnight switch becomes weather. The clerk does not lie loudly. He tidies. He uses words the office trusts. He moves a line from one column to another and makes theft look like math. He sleeps well. He balanced the page. Not all seizures are real. Some are staged. A cart of husks is dressed as contraband. It is stopped with noise and burned where the crowd can see. The scribe writes, vigilance. The chief points at ash and calls it order. Behind the warehouse, the real goods move under a canopy that reads temple property. The god of the quarter earns his protection fee without leaving the shrine. Informers grease every hinge. Innkeepers know who arrived after dark. Stable boys count hooves. Porters read the shape of bundles from a distance, like they read weather. Their pay is not always coin. Sometimes it is exemption. Your brother's cart goes clean this month. Sometimes it is survival. Name a back lane or be counted with the train. The second map pays informers to prevent accidents dressed as policy. There is a bribe that looks like duty. A guard calls it a clarity fee. He offers a written schedule. This much per cart, this much per month, this much for a season. He stamps a slip with the squad's mark. It is not legal, but it is predictable. Predictable is worth more than right. Houses that pay this sleep. Houses that refuse learn new gates in a hurry. Bandits curate reputations like merchants curate seals. A path becomes famous for safe passage under a certain moon. Another is known for short temper. One crew never harms pilgrims and so borrows pilgrim lanes for trade when the moon is thin. Another advertises, escort to the third pass, and sells you to rivals at the fourth. The road keeps score. A broken promise costs more than a broken seal. Some uniforms are rented. A retired captain returns with his badge. He sells a day of authority to a caravan house that needs to cross during audit week. He rides at the head, takes greetings at the gate, and speaks the right names. The clerk, grateful for a problem solved, stamps through. The report reads, military convoy, exempt. The second map calls it Tuesday. Clerks grow gardens of exceptions, treaty exemptions for repairs to the fort, privileges for weavers' inputs, sacred covers for processional cloth. Each exception is a lane. Each lane is a lesson. Once a lane exists, someone will widen it. The guard sighs. The posted board looks silly next to a file of letters that all say, not this bale. He holds what he can hold. He lets the rest sing hymns. Farmed customs turn gray into black by schedule. A contractor must deliver a number to the governor. He squeezes at quarter's end. He relaxes at harvest. He raises rates on strangers and forgives cousins. He offers seasonal clarity at a discount if you pay early. Strangers become clients. Clients become a lobby. The new contractor inherits both the clients and the lobby. Policy becomes inertia with a stamp. Staged raids need theater. Drums. Torches. A list of names that fits a script. A raid on a day the bazaar is full and the chief has a visitor from the capital. A crate is split and declared contraband. The judge signs a forfeiture that becomes a show. After 2 weeks, an auction. The house that lost in daylight buys back at dusk for less than bribes would have cost. The receipt says law. The ledger says discount. Markets buy safety by the yard. A guild pays to man a night watch and quietly includes an escort fee to the south gate. Security dues buy both torches and tones. A market that pays its watch well has fewer accidents. A market that cheats its watch loses bales to mysterious wind. The second map keeps its own weather. Paper becomes a shield for men who sell force. Letters of passage, signed by the commandant, travel far. Some are real. Some are repainted. A clerk who wants a quiet winter sells 3 blanks to a house with cousins in 4 towns. The letters push carts through arguments like plows through crusted ground. Later, during audit, the clerk blames a disorderly chest. He is reprimanded. He retires with enough to buy a tea shop. The line between guard and robber swings with the season. When pay is late, checkpoints sprout out of gravel. When pay is early, checkpoints disappear into courtyards that sell dried apricots. Bandits shift with snow. In war, they fight under a prince's banner and call themselves scouts. In peace, they sell roots and call themselves road wardens. A badge is a hat. Methods remain. Communication is a middleman, too. Runners sell time. They warn of new chiefs, fresh audits, and a captain's grief that makes him eager to impress. A scrap of writing in a hand you trust, use the east ford, is worth 3 guards on a bridge. Families subscribe to runners the way cities subscribe to weather. When a runner's message arrives, warm and quick, a ledger writes a red line. Do not use Miran when governors change. Clerks count more than coin, they count moods. A day that begins with a delegation from the temple is a day to use devotion labels. A day that begins with a dead patrolman is a day to use white week. The clerk's eyebrow is a barometer. Porters learn to read it. An extra cord, 1 more seal. Leave the bail that smiles too loudly for tomorrow. Amnesties exist. A new chief arrives and declares, no questions for a week if you settle arrears. Houses rush to the gate with silver, receipts, and faces that claim innocence by effort. The clerk stamps until his hand aches. The chief smiles. The report says revenue uplift. The second map says reset. Then the chief learns how the place actually lives, and the familiar rhythms return. Not every uniform can be bought. There are honest gates. There are honest men who care more for sleep without shame than for a jar with a name. The second map respects them the way you respect a cold river. Cross elsewhere when you can. Cross quickly when you must. Never pretend it is warm. Honest gates focus the shadow. They do not end it. Some houses try muscle. They hire rough men and dress them as porters. They argue with guards and win once. Then they lose thrice. The road disapproves of noise. It prefers timing to swagger. A guard who feels insulted learns hunger for a week and then finds clever ways to make a house late. Delay is revenge that smells clean. Villages are the softest uniforms. A headman decides if the lane behind his orchard is open. He orders lanterns lit or dark. He asks a price called hospitality, which covers both stew and discretion. He remembers which houses paid when last winter was thin. He remembers which soldiers left muddy boots in his wife's kitchen. His memory is law, where maps are guesswork. There are workshops for this. Rooms behind wayhouses where carpenters fit false bottoms. Courtyards where scribes teach apprentices how to tire a hand just so. Kitchens where old women boil wax that never shines too much. The guard knows these places exist. He eats there. He pretends not to see the tools. He is not paid to see them. He is paid to keep the gate open and the peace outward. The middle has a morality. It is not the court's morality. It is not the priest's either. It is the morality of keeping children fed and gates calm. A clerk who writes weather for medicine sleeps well. A bandit who spares pilgrims collects more in 3 seasons than he would by blood in 1. A guard who sells clarity instead of fear grows old. The second map rewards outcomes, not speeches. All of this forms a braid. Uniforms, outlaw badges, and pens. Each strand pulls the others into a rope, strong enough to drag a cart over a hill the law built, without thinking about weight. When the rope frays, the road replaces a strand and keeps going. Reports praise vigilance. Markets praise patience. The truth sits in a ledger that sun's read by lamplight. Then a different tempo arrives. Horses fresh at every station, couriers with tablets that silence questions, badges that are more than badges, a relay system that turns days into hours and privilege into a cloak wide enough for a caravan to walk under. The middle adjusts. It always does. But speed is a new coin, and those who spend it write new rules. Listen, The horn on the next ridge is not a gate horn. It belongs to the yam. Paisas glitter like small suns. The road is about to learn what happens when Empire itself carries the second map in its pocket. Speed arrives, wearing a badge, not a bribe, a tablet, a paisa. Metal or wood, stamped with words that turn wait into now. The bearer shows it. A station opens. A horse is let out. The road bows. The yam erto spreads like beads on a string. A post every day's ride. Fresh mounts. Fodder. Hot water if you're lucky. Registers that list who came and who left. How many animals. How much grain. The Empire calls it service. Villages call it burden. Merchants call it wind. The tablet speaks 3 commands. Do not delay. Supply the bearer. Punish those who hinder. It has ranks. A small tablet gets a horse. A grand one drinks the station dry. Inscribed lines are law in motion. A guard at a gate argues with stamps on paper. He does not argue with a tablet and a courier who knows the prince's steward by name. Speed is a currency. It reduces risk. It shrinks the time an inspector has to invent a problem. It turns a 3-week gamble into 5 days of certainty. The second map buys speed when it can't buy innocence. It borrows authority the way a poor man borrows a coat in winter. How? By attaching cargo to people who carry tablets, diplomats, envoys, or talk partners of princes. A bale becomes luggage. A cart becomes entourage. A shipment becomes supplies for the relay. No one needs to lie out loud. The road nods at the tablet and lights the next lamp. Ortok partnership means capital, with a pedigree. A prince stakes silver or confiscated stock. A merchant house adds skill. They farm taxes one season, import bolts and dyes the next. Exemptions fall like snow. No tamga on these bales. No delay at these posts. Prophet wears uniform. The second map smiles. Uniforms move faster than bribes. Paper follows the speed. Letters of passage. Jarlik decrees that say, do not impede. Couriers carry arrow messages that skip the queue. A scribe in blue writes careful loops that look like a gate opening. A clerk folds the letter and warms the seal with his hand before he presses. He knows a live stamp when he feels one. Paper money arrives where the horses rest. Chow. Notes with seals and strings that promise value far from mines. Exchange houses bloom at yam posts. They turn notes into coin, coin into notes, notes into favors. Over-invoice a cart in a province that loves paper. Under-invoice it where paper limps. Let the difference settle under a canopy called donation. The ledger calls this arithmetic. The road calls it breathing. Abuse follows privilege like dust follows hooves. A cousin gets a paisa for a small reason and rides as if he were a prince. A partner loads urgent grain and sells it at the third post. A garrison complains that their horses chew the bark off fence rails. Petitions pile on desks. Stations stripped, fodder gone. Couriers delayed by men with tablets and bales. Auditors stir. Inspectors count horses and seal cords. Registers are compared against faces and names. Show me your paisa again. Fraud learns fear. Tablets gain numbers. Some expire. Some are recalled and restamped. A new mark appears, small and mean, valid only for bearer. The second map adapts. It travels closer to real envoys. It hides behind tents, not just tablets. The yam changes markets by math. Relay distance sets price. 10 posts of fodder cost this much. 2 days' gain is worth that much. Houses learn to compute with hooves and oats. A family that knows the stable master at post 7 is rich in ways a scribe cannot inventory. The empire draws a straight line across emptiness. The second map learns to live in the stations, like shadows. Stations are communities with rules. A headman owes fodder. A groom owes a saddle without cracks. A cook owes hot water to men who speak 5 tongues badly. Each debt can be turned. A bale helps a cook's brother. A coin helps a groom's sister. Hospitality becomes a lane. The tablet legalizes what custom already blessed. A village that eats because a convoy made it through will not love crackdowns. Paisas teach forgers new ambitions. A replica won't survive a thumb. The metal is wrong. The script is too eager. The patina smells of vinegar instead of sweat. The best forgery borrows a real tablet at dusk and returns it at dawn with a memory of being heavy. That is too dangerous for most houses. Safer to hire a man who has one and attach your cart to his shadow. Badges breed brokers. A retired courier sells company for a trip through a hard province. A relay officer rents his voice at audit time. These bales are for the Ordu. A judge reads that line and steps back. He remembers a time when horsemen arrived at night and asked why the gate was closed. He prefers not to remember again. Speed generates new scams with old bones. Double-bottom carts do not rattle if the road is smooth. Night transfers move to dawn, then to noon, because tablets make patrols blink. Label games adopt the Empire's words. Repairs for the fort for rope and iron. Supplies for the station, for oil and grain. The second map speaks state. Not everyone claps. Station masters complain. Villages protest. A magistrate tries a rotation. This quarter, only diplomats drink the relay dry. Next quarter, only relief shipments. Then famine comes, and relief becomes every cargo's surname. The stations groan. Horses die. Inspectors grieve and scold, and replace nothing because budgets come late. Crackdowns arrive, dressed as reform. Register all paisas. Limit escorts to 3 carts. Pay the fodder levy in coin, not promises. Seals gain countersigns. Couriers gain auditors on their heels. A white week appears while officials count. The road pays posted dues and smiles. Then a cousin returns from the capital with a smile of his own, and the tablets begin to shine again. When unity frays, the map sprouts teeth. The Golden Horde wants dues. The Ilkhanate wants different dues. Chagatai men grow jealous of passes from Yuan lands. Exemptions turn into arguments at rivers. A convoy legal at dawn is contraband at noon if the flag changes across a ridge. The second map remembers older lanes through scrub and creek. It shrinks to survive. Speed doesn't vanish. It changes owners. Princes fall out. Stations pick sides. Some posts become traps. Others become gold. Runners sell news of which relay is safe, which officer was replaced, which seal to show this week. The right lamp means the right horse. The wrong lamp means a night on a cold floor with questions you can't afford. Through it all, the paisa keeps its aura. Even in pieces, even when framed on a wall in a tea house after a courier dies. People lower their voice when they speak its name. Authority is a superstition as much as a policy. The second map treats it like weather. It studies it, it borrows it, it survives it. You can hear fatigue in the stations. Empty mangers, tired grooms. A ledger with too many red lines that say, fodder short. Complaints curl in baskets. A governor plans a visit with drums and scales and bonfires for show. The road feels the air change. It moves its goods to smaller oases, quieter passes, courtyards with lamps that speak in chalk. The crackdowns are coming. The detours are already alive. Crackdowns do not whisper. They arrive with drums. Edicts pasted in 3 scripts. Torches. New scales hauled into the sun like trophies. A chief points at a board of rates and says the word order as if it were a new god. The second map bows. Then it listens for the gaps. Bonfires eat dye and cloth, not because cloth offends, but because ash photographs well in a report. Seals are broken at noon when the bazaar is full. A cart is overturned in a lane that carries the best echo. Confession is not required. Spectacle Island, the clerk writes, seized for cause. The crowd hears, someone is working. The road hears, White Week begins. White Weeks have rules. Pay the posted dues. Use daylight. Smile. Let scales bite once so they stop looking for a throat. Traders take small losses like vaccinations. The ledger writes, reset suspicion. The first map glows with virtue. The second map trims its roots and waits under the noise, like wheat under snow. Curfews shove the dance from night to dawn. Ports close at sunset. Harbors police their lights. Runners change their lines. Blue hour only. A bale that would have moved at the 6th hour after dusk now moves 2 before sunrise. The captain yawns. The patrol drinks hot water and calls it vigilance. Dawn looks like piety. Piety is good cover. Edicts breed counter-edicts. A ban on export at harvest. A quota on salt at drought. A tariff hike for the garrison. Each rule births a detour. Back canals where reeds write secrecy. Goat paths that avoid a post built last month. A creek beyond the harbor where lighters kiss the keel without lanterns. The second map does not argue. It walks elsewhere. Auditors arrive like winter guests. Cord numbers checked against registers. Seals compared to drawings. Weights verified with stones that came in sealed boxes from a capital no one has seen. They find things. Everyone claps. Then they leave. Their boxes leave with them. The stones that remain go back to their old habits, because habit is cheaper than purity. Metrics change behavior. The governor wants counts. Seizures per quarter, fines per bale, reports per week. Guards learn to stage success. One decoy cart burns bright at the west gate every market day. The adjective vigilant appears in ink so black you can smell the pride. Meanwhile, the east alley learns to yawn. The second map follows boredom, not trumpets. Prices swell under pressure. Scarcity is a tax that burns no paper. Bribes get new names, inspection fee, after-hours facility. Clarity for a season. Small coins grow heavy. Big coins hide in copies for study, a week before new rates. The grease index, written nowhere, climbs when the drum beats hard and falls when the drum tires. Traders feel it in the bones like weather. Communities adjust their masks. Shrines dim their lamps earlier. Guilds post their own observers by the scales and quietly sell pre-weigh certificates to members. Headmen close back lanes for a fortnight but cook in larger pots. Hospitality is paused in public and doubled in kitchens. A village that eats because a train made it through will not clap for too long. Smaller oases fatten. Big caravanserais are audited until they glow. So, strings of courtyards replace halls. A courtyard with a fig tree and a well. A cousin with a key. A bale that naps in a room that smells of soap. Then wakes under a canopy that says procession. The caravan splits into 3s. 1 legal, 1 shadow, 1 dormant. Ratios change with moons and moods. At sea, crackdowns push ships sideways. A captain anchors 1 bend from the harbor and waits for a cloud to cover a moon. Lighters meet him among reeds. Barrels travel as ballast. The manifest blames shoals and wind. The harbor master has a niece who needs tuition and a baker's guild that needs cheap salt to keep bread from tasting like rules. The stamp appears where the report needs it. Sometimes, crackdowns learn elegance. Trusted trader lanes. Badges that behave like baby pizzas. Green channel for those who register and pay a year at once. The second map applies first. Predictable is profit. A season of no questions is worth more than a sack of new tricks. Then a new chief arrives and asks why the green moves faster than the law. The badge changes color. The route does not. Detours prefer silence to heroics. A single goat track above a snow line replaces a famous pass with an inn. A dry riverbed turns into a one-night road when the wind holds. A shepherd sells time by pointing at stars and saying, "Not that one, the dimmer one." In the report, the pass is clear. In the sky, it is not. Crackdowns feed brokers. Bandits become road wardens with receipts. Escort to the third post. Guarantee against search. Guards rent steadier sleep for a price that fits easily in a pouch. Clerks expand the garden of exceptions. Repairs to the fort. Weavers' inputs. Relief supplies. The more exceptions, the more corridors a clever house can widen into roads. The Board of Rates keeps a straight face. Everyone else practices a different expression. A season of ash ends in an auction. Confiscated cloths, oxen, carts, indigo. The crowd bids in daylight what it could not move at night. The house that lost its bail buys it back for less than bribes would have cost. The receipt says, law. The ledger says, discount. The chief waves from a balcony. The second map smiles without teeth. There are honest weeks. New posts sleep at their desks because there is nothing to do. Lanes run on time. Scales work as scales. Traders keep to daylight and pay as posted. These weeks do not last. Harvest pinches. War eats coin. A cousin takes a job. A boss drinks the wrong tea. Rhythm returns to the old key. Heavy crackdowns push the road outward. Overland caravans become strings of small carts that never gather enough noise to attract an audit. Ports birth creeks. Markets huddle inside courtyards with no signs. Even the words move. Tea becomes charcoal. Charcoal becomes sweets. The red ink in a house book writes, East Lane sleeping, where last month it wrote, use the East Lane. Runners earn their silver. New chief at the bridge. Audit after the festival. Curfew shifted by an hour. A scrap of writing in a familiar hand arrives warm. A house changes its plan as easily as a man changes a hat. Money moves 2 streets over. A lamp appears in a different window. A chalk mark turns from circle to cross. Orders travel faster by rumor than by decree. Some crackdowns reach too far. A governor demands perfection and gets paralysis. Carts stack at a gate. Fruit rots into jam that no one ordered. The bazaar grows thin. Priests complain because incense stops. The army complains because bread stops. The governor discovers that rules eat twice, once at bribes, once at hunger. He announces targeted enforcement. The road hears night has returned. Detours leave fossils. A path of packed earth where no road was drawn. A notch in a lintel where chalk returned too often. A ledger scraped thin where the red line lived for a year. A child who grows up knowing that the back canal is not water but time. When the chief posts a new board of rates, the fossils do not blink. Stones remember without trying. Some houses misread the weather. They brag. They move too much during a white week. They treat a decoy like a habit. The road punishes arrogance, with accidents that look like rain. A wheel splits on a rut that was avoided for 3 years straight. A patrol appears on a night never patrolled. A clerk picks the one ledger that should have slept. None of it is personal. All of it is a schedule-correcting noise. Detours are not always lanes. Sometimes they are languages, calling contraband repairs until the word wears out, moving to donation for a season, borrowing the grammar of the court when priests get nervous. The label game is a compass. It points to the nearest shelter even when maps are wrong. You can see the cycle from a rooftop. Drum. Ash. Silence. Dawn. The bay fills again. A gate forgets how to frown. Men argue about the taste of dates, not the taste of fines. Then a new decree hangs on a board. The river of people shifts to a different bank, as if it had been told 2 days ago. Maybe it was. Through it all, ledgers outlive the chiefs who sign them. Sons inherit red lines that say, pay at the west gate in rain, and avoid Moran when governors change. Daughters remember which lamp means safe and which means stay. Markets keep teaching what they learned when the drums were loud. The next part of our road lives in those books. Open one. The ink is dry in 2 colors, and the first line is a forecast. Open a book. Not the clerks, the houses. Leather gone soft. String mended 3 times. The first page smells of smoke and starch. 2 inks. Black for totals. Red for weather. Black is what you can show an auditor without blushing. Names of cargo. Dates you swear by. Routes that existed. Red is memory that learned to hide. Pay tea at Westgate in rain. Avoid Miran when governors change. Use dawn after festival. A son reads the red out loud as household advice. A nephew hears a map. There are 3 books in every serious house. The day book that faces the world. The house book that faces heirs. The third book that is not a book at all. It lives in proverbs and kitchen steam. White week. 2 cords. Lamp to the left. You will not see it. You will eat from it. Numbers learn disguises. A bribe becomes hospitality. An escort fee becomes grass. A decoy becomes promotion. When the page says sweets, no one in the room tastes sugar. When the page says charcoal, someone buys silence at a gate where the brazier never warms enough to be called kind. The ledger speaks softly. Rooms translate. Split shipments have arithmetic that would embarrass a sage if a sage had to feed a market. 1 share legal, 1 shadow, 1 dormant. Ratios drift with moon and rumor. Black ink notes the legal share in fat digits. Red ink scratches a fraction on the margin that looks like an idle reminder. A boy copies both and learns that math can be a fence as well as a bridge. House books teach redundancy like prayer. 2 cousins in 2 cities with the same hand. 2 seals in 2 boxes with different dust. 2 courtyards that can swallow a bale on short notice. If war eats one road, the other wakes. If a chief counts hard at a gate, a sister counts softer at a wayhouse. If a ledger burns, a wax tablet in a jar tells the next week what the last week meant. Trust moves faster than coin. Hawala by other names. A name whispered in a tea room. A tally stick split down the grain. A letter no one outside the family can read because the lines lean in a way only your aunt ever wrote. A payment cleared in a cousin's shop in Bukhara, the moment a bale breathes in Aleppo. No banks. Only people who cannot afford to be caught lying. Escrow is old and wears an apron. A tea-house keeper holds a pouch. A scribe seals it with his tired stamp. A guard's cousin names a condition. Payment when the cart is counted inside. If the cart tastes the shadow too long, the pouch returns to the paying hand. No argument. The tea stays hot. The book calls it copy fee. The street calls it peace. Red lines remember politics. Do not use the East Ford when the prince is grieving. Pay the shrine before the tax farmer's nephew marries. Move indigo as procession cloth during fast month. None of this is illegal on paper. All of it is survival in the open. The house book is a barometer. It records air. Some houses use ciphers. Not for drama, for fatigue. A dot above a letter means double the bribe. 2 dots mean white week. A bent line in the gutter of the page means do not put this bale next to that one, or both will be searched. If the book is seized, a judge reads grocery lists. Sons read weather. Day books are masks. They face auditors and tell a respectable story. Totals balance. Tears look modest. No red ink. Neat seals at the bottom of the page. The book sleeps in a chest the color of authority. The chest is locked with a key the clerk recognizes and respects. He does not ask for the other chest. The other chest is ugly and plain. It lives under a bed. It holds paper that remembers last winter's drums, not last winter's law. Receipts with ink rub thin, so the stamp looks older than an island. A faded letter that once waved a convoy past a closed bridge. A broken seal kept as a teacher. Copy the chip, not the lion. Red ink also pays for patience. Hold 3 bales in a dorm room behind the tanner's lane until the new chief leaves his cousin's house. Pay the waymaster's stones a visit with warm hands the day after the solstice. Send a runner before moonrise if wind carries ash from the west. None of it is urgent. All of it is on time. Ledgers know men. The black writes, Captain Qasim likes clarity. The red writes, do not remind Captain Qasim that you like clarity. The black writes, Scribe Rahim provides copies. The red writes, Scribe Rahim's wife writes better. Pay her. The book becomes a family of voices laid flat until a lamp wakes them. Guilds run their own books. Clean fronts, quiet backs, member inputs in black, member favors in red. A stamp on the front page that glows righteous in noon Sunday. A note in the margin that says, Brother Imran's son to the West Post in spring. The guild is a market with a memory. It outlives individual greed by cultivating collective habit. Shrines keep ledgers too. Donations, dates, carpet repairs. The red in a shrine's book is not always ink. It can be a frayed ribbon knotted on a page to remember a favor. It can be a pressed leaf to remember a season when the sheriff knelt at the door and asked for mercy. Sacred ledgers do not call themselves ledgers. They call themselves gratitude. When empires change their flags, books do not blink. Names of chiefs turn brittle. Stamps lose faces. Rates change, then change again. A ledger adjusts with a new column title and keeps the old red line. Avoid Miran when governors change, ages into proverb. A grandson rolls his eyes at wisdom he will pay to relearn in a year. Fires come. Floods come. Audits come that eat paper like goats eat weeds. Houses train for that day. Pages are copied on scraps that travel in hymns. Codes are taught as songs. A grandmother can sing the rate for salt in 6 towns and tell you where each clerk hides his spare seal. When a chest goes to ash, the song remains. Counting is also defense. Inventories after festivals. Weighs before audits. Quiet reconciliations in kitchens, where bowls cover numbers if a neighbor knocks. If the numbers do not kiss, the road has a leak. If a leak cannot be named, a nephew spends a week sweeping a courtyard with lamps until he learns the difference between rumor and theft. 2 inks draw the road across generations. Black keeps a house inside the law that can be seen. Red keeps a family inside the law that is lived. Black comforts visitors from the capital. Red feeds winter. Black is how you pass inspection. Red is how you pass a recipe. Books sometimes exaggerate their own virtue. A line that says, "No bribes paid this quarter" is black theater. The red line below it says, "Tea weekly at dawn." The contradiction does not shame anyone. It acknowledges that law is often a guest in rooms where dinner is cooked by habit. Merchants die. Ledgers remain. A page, browned and thin, holds a rule older than any chief. Do not teach a decoy everything. Another, with fresh red, says, "Pay the warden's niece for sweets when the apricots are good." This is not cynicism. It is choreography scored for families, not drums. Sometimes, ledgers choose ethics over margins. A red line reads, "Medicine passes free when cholera walks." Another says, "Pay full rate on grain during famine. Take curses quietly if they come." The road is not made of angels. It is made of people who must live with what they do. The book lets them remember the line they did not cross. Empires fall. Houses close. A chest is sold with blankets. A book slides to a stall on a hot afternoon. A stranger buys it for the leather and discovers the handwriting of a century. He cannot read the code. He can feel the temperature. The road breathes from the margins as if the ink never dried. Run your finger down a red line. Do not use Miran when governors change. Another, Westgate loves rain. Another, White Week ends with ash. The advice is not about geography. It is about men, schedules, and appetite. A map without names. A weather report for rules. Turn the page. There is space left. The hand that will fill it has not been born. The ink that will color it has not been ground. The rule that will be written has not been learned. What is certain is that the book will outlast the next chief and the next board of rates. It will teach without announcing itself a teacher. Close the cover. The leather sighs. Outside, drums fade. A clerk yawns. A porter stretches. The road moves one street over without speaking. Our book taught us how. Now, before the ink cools, let's lift our eyes from the page and look sideways to other coasts, other monopolies, other fairs, where different empires drew different boards of rates, and the second map learned new dialects to say the same old thing. Hold the Silk Road up to other coasts. The shadows look familiar. The edges don't. In the Mediterranean, tariffs dress like ceremony. Harbors with stone piers. Scales in the Sunday. Consuls who speak for merchants under flags. Fondacos walled lodgings promise safety for a fee and sell convenience as privilege. A stamp from Venice bows to one from the Sultan if the ship rides low. Customs can be farmed, audits staged, and seizures performed for a watching crowd. The second map there prefers water. Night lightering beats alleys. A skiff meets a hull 2 bends from a lighthouse. Ballast becomes cargo without touching a quay. The report blames wind. The baker thanks the price. North of that, Hanseatic lanes write with salt spray. Contours in Novgorod and Bruges keep books that outlive bad winters. City law, guild law, and a prince's tax collide in counting houses that smell of herring and ink. Privileges travel on seals as old as a street. Bribes rename themselves gifts for stewards. Escort fees become ice money. Audits come with beer. The second map is sober by habit and tipsy by law. Across the desert's opposite edge, the Indian Ocean works in monsoons. Timing is God. A dhow leaves on a wind you can set your bones by. Ports Aden, Cambay, Hormuz, Calicut post dues and sell exceptions with the same hand. Lightering lives in reeds as a profession with a shrine. A cargo touches 3 boats and claims it was always on the 4th. Harbor masters count storms that did not happen and write shoals. The road at sea calls bribes service and looks at the sky to price honesty. Southeast Asia prefers royal ports with soft power and hard ledgers. Ayutthaya, Melika, Pegu. Court monopolies on cloves or pepper wear smiles and medals. Tax farms run by families collect in one hand and donate shrines with the other. Palm leaf passes say exempt with a thickness you can feel. The second map bows to palaces and uses back creeks where mangrove roots outnumber patrols. China writes law with granaries. The salt monopoly is a state within the state. Certificates move like blood. Once legit, they feed armies. Once forged, they feed everyone else. Crackdowns burn boats on rivers and praise virtue in bronze. Then a drought arrives, and relief becomes the word that makes lanes wide again. Later, internal transit levies, legion by another name, turn roads into abacuses. The second map learns to carry paper that breathes, not just cargo that weighs. Farther west, Mamluk and later Ottoman realms sell clarity through offices that understand spectacle. Bans on weapons and slaves become licenses with stamps that tire easily. Iltizam farm taxes creates men who must meet numbers and invent calm. They stage seizures, exact grass under uniforms, and honor shrines that bless processions. Caravan cities like Aleppo and Damascus keep notebooks in 2 inks long before a clerk says audit. Medieval fairs in Champagne teach another grammar. Safe conducts, letters of fare, quarts of pie powder that judge fast and leave light footprints. For a month, all roads are green channels in daylight. Then the fair folds its tents. The lanes go private again. The second map learns to breathe in seasons, pay full dues during trumpets, move aside when tents sleep. What, then, is distinct in the Silk Road's shadow map? Distance first. Not miles, but kinds of miles. Steppe that rewards speed over stealth. Mountains that turn detours into winter plans. Deserts that make wells into laws. No seawall to hide behind. Few peers to blame. The second map here relies on patience, not just luck. Diversity next, not of goods, of rule books. City law at the gate. Provincial law at the ford. Court privilege above both, if the paper speaks the right names. A caravan legal at dawn is contraband at noon, if a ridge changes flags. The Silk Road learns to borrow authority rather than fight it. Shrine letters, guild seals, imperial tablets, and family voices that cross languages with soup and vows. Then borrowing itself, the habit of wearing someone else's cloak. Label a bale as processional cloth. Attach a cart to a paisa bearer. Pay a bandit who calls himself a warden with a receipt. The trick is not to counterfeit strength. It is to stand close to it long enough that suspicion gets tired. Distances require this. So does the number of borders a man can cross in a week without moving more than 1 valley. Logistics become ethics because hunger sits close. On sea lanes, a delay costs coin. On land, a delay costs water. The second map on the Silk Road prices kindness when it must. A guard waves medicine through and names it devotion. A house pays full dues on grain during famine and takes curses quietly. These lines live in red, not on boards, because they are chosen, not posted. And yet, the family resemblance across regions is hard to miss. Farmed customs everywhere push gray into black. Shrines and guilds everywhere sell shelter as virtue. Seals everywhere promise fairness and sell discretion. Crackdowns everywhere learn theater. Auctions everywhere close the loop. Law by day, discount by dusk. The tune changes. The rhythm persists. If the Mediterranean's second map rides wake, the Silk Road's rides breath. If the Indian Ocean's shadow prefers reeds, the Silk Road's prefers courtyards. If Southeast Asia's leans on palaces, the Silk Road's leans on posts and deserts. All of them teach the same lesson. The first map posts rules, the second map's exceptions. Both claim to speak for order. Sources tell parts of this in the voices they had. A traveler exaggerates a bribe because a story needs spice. A clerk underplays a seizure because a report needs calm. A shrine records a gift and forgets the bale's weight. A guild remembers a favor and forgets a name. We will need their fragments to be fair. So turn from the road for a moment. Open a court record that smells of mildew and pride. Read a letter that took 3 winters to arrive. Hold a travelogue that praises one chief and curses another with equal eloquence. Between them lies a map that never made a wall. In the next part, we read the margins where truth hides and the silences where it learned to sleep. Hold the paper to the light. Some lines darken, some vanish. That is how the archive speaks. Travelers make noise first. Marco Polo praises exemptions like a man impressed by speed. Ibn Battuta lists gates, tolls, and gifts with a courtier's tact. Their verbs are large. Their pockets are not. They flatter hosts. They scold strangers. They sell wonder. Sources suggest we read them for weather, not for weights. If 2 travelers agree, it is usually on timing, not totals. Court records speak next. They are tidy and proud. Seizures are staged into sentences. Contraband burns in crisp prose. Fines multiply per bail. A clerk copies the judgment in a hand that never sweats. The spin is built in. Reports praise vigilance. Judges perform order. What they omit is hunger. What they erase is the cousin with a key behind the tannery lane. Charters and waqf deeds keep markets breathing. A caravanserai endowment lists lamps, stables, water rights, and security. That word can mean guards. It can mean brokers. It can mean a headman's memory. A shrine ledger records gifts, processional cloth, and repairs to a canopy. The spin is piety. The silence is price. We learn that lanes opened. We do not learn what it cost at dusk. Empire edicts are clear until they aren't. A jarlik orders no delay for couriers. A salt decree draws a circle around a monopoly and calls it mercy. An Ottoman iltizam contract demands a number and gives a man a season to invent calm. The spin is stability. The silence is the second map, which the edict can name only as disorder, shrinkage, or weather. Merchants write letters in code and courtesy. The tea at the west gate tasted of rain. A nephew understands. Our cousin's boy has learned to count 2 chords. A daughter understands. Send the blue indigo as devotion. A guild elder understands. The spin is family. The silence is the guard's name, which survives as hospitality. Archaeology interrupts the prose. Coin hoards cluster near small oases, not capitals. Ceiling fragments turn up in caravanserai dumps, not at gates. Balance weights carry quiet corrections, scratched after audits. A shipwreck holds cargo that does not match any surviving manifest. The spin is evidence without adjectives. The silence is motive, which objects do not confess. Miniatures and murals sell mood. A ledger in a painter's hand glows clean. A caravan looks orderly under a calm sky. Scales sit honest in gold leaf. The spin is how a city wanted to be seen. The silence is how it kept its kitchens warm. When a margin shows a porter with 2 chords instead of 1, the detail matters more than the halo. Inscriptions are stingy and useful. A lintel says a guild paid for a gate. A milestone says a governor built a road in a year that was famously hard. A donor list puts a merchant's name next to a shrine's new awning. The spin is prestige. The silence is the lane that awnings sheltered at dawn. Audits survive as fragments. Weights replaced after solstice. Chords verified. Stamps missing, requests new. They read like housekeeping. They are weather reports. A run of replacements marks a crackdown. A gap marks fatigue. Later tradition claims purity was restored. Ledgers suggest habit returned. Even the word Silk Road is a kind of spin. It is modern, a 19th century romance that stitched many roads into one ribbon. The people who walked those lanes did not need that ribbon. They needed schedules, cousins, and lamps. When we say Silk Road, we are already smoothing a map that lived in roughness. Bias runs through the archive like a hidden canal. Officials inflate seizures to please superiors. Merchants deflate profits to keep cousins humble and tax farmers sleepy. Travelers exaggerate bribes because stories want spice. Shrine books sanitize labels because a god should not be a customs broker. Each voice edits the second map to suit its audience. So we triangulate. A court record says a seizure was vast. The midden behind the way house says otherwise. A traveler praises a governor's justice. A guild book adds 2 red lines about White Week and avoid Moran when governors change. An edict bans export at harvest. Coin finds spike along a back canal. When 3 kinds of evidence hum the same note, we listen. Silence has patterns. Enslaved porters vanish into verbs carried, delivered, received. Women move money and information through kitchens, shrines, and courtyards, then disappear into household. Small traders with 1 cart live in tears and tips, not in names. Bandits who became wardens keep only nicknames. The first map calls them disorder. The second remembers them as weather. Both hide them well. Ethics enter on tiptoe. A ledger says medicine passes free when cholera walks. A court record does not mention that day. A shrine book lists gifts and forgets a bail. We rely on the red ink no auditor sees. We rely on the way a family speaks to itself when no performance is needed. Those lines are thin. They are also the only place where the road admits what it owed to its own conscience. We mark uncertainty without shame. Sources suggest, inscriptions imply, later tradition claims. We hold 2 truths without forcing a wedding. Markets shade rules. Rules shape markets. If an anecdote sounds too neat, we put it next to a receipt. If a receipt sounds too pure, we put it next to a rumor. The second map prefers triangulation to zeal. Spin changes over time. Early chronicles boast about pacified roads. Later ones mourn taxes that grew teeth. Merchant letters begin cautious, then turn cheerful under a stable chief, then wary when a cousin takes a post. The curve repeats. The archive is a heartbeat. We read it in beats, not in monuments. There are places where the paper ends. Desert eats ink. War eats chests. Flood eats seals. Then oral maps take over. Proverbs about gates that love rain. Names turned into verbs, to Miran, for to delay under a smile. Songs that carry rate tables, and where the spare seals sleep. An auditor cannot cite a song. A family can live by it. If this feels unsatisfying, that is because truth on the road wears layers. Law dresses the first. Habit wears the second. Hunger wears the third. Our job is not to strip. It is to feel the weight and say, with care, what the layers allow. Enough to keep the viewer honest. Not enough to pretend we have seen every lamp lit. We stand now with a handful of shards. A decree, a receipt, a weight, a prayer, a rumor. They point in one direction. The second map was not chaos. It was choreography. It learned from paper and taught paper how to look away. It is older than a board of rates and younger than a child who reads a red dot as, wait. Turn one more page. The ink is modern. The badge is plastic. The lane is a green channel. The label reads, Trusted Trader. The seal is a barcode that can be warmed without a flame. If the first map posts rules and the second maps exceptions, which one do we live by now? Hold that thought. The next part walks from archives to airports and asks the same old question with new machines watching. Walk from archives to airports. The board of rates is now a screen. The seal is a barcode. The clerk is a scanner that blinks. Nothing fundamental has changed. The room still smells of dust and ambition. The second map still waits for dusk, even when the lights never go out. We call them green channels. Trusted trader programs. A badge on a lanyard that behaves like a small paisa. Pre-clearance replaces smiles. Data replaces cousins. The principle remains. Predictability for those who pay in paperwork. The second map learns to borrow certainty, the way it once borrowed a shrine's canopy. Free trade zones promise speed funded by fences. Bonded warehouses promise custody without duty. Transshipment hubs promise a new name for the same box. Country of origin becomes a mood. A container changes codes like a bale once changed labels. Textiles grow into procession cloth. Now parts grow into assemblies. The green lane nods. The seal blinks. Seals are electronic and carry heat. RFID tags chirp in silence. GPS pings draw lines across oceans. But custody is still choreography. Blind spots remain at hinge points. Handoffs, subcontractors, the 5-minute window, when a reader sleeps. The second map studies failure, reports the way it once studied a clerk's eyebrow. It moves where antennas stutter and paperwork yawns. Audits travel faster than caravans now. Risk scores, anomalies, alerts for unusual routings and split consignments. Weights flag themselves in software when a pattern breaks. Yet metrics still become theater. A port burns counterfeit shoes for cameras. A minister claps. The algorithm sleeps. The East Alley is now a feeder road to a dry port no one lists on the poster. Boredom is still the safest color on the map. Bribes grow polite. Facilitation fee. After-hours processing. Expedited inspection. The invoice prints a line nobody argues with. The account code sounds like housekeeping. Small coins became electronic transfers. The hand that once slid a pouch now clicks, submit. The rhythm is identical. The hymn is new. Misinvoicing inherits the red ink. Overstate to draw insurance. Understate to dodge duty. Split a cargo across 3 bills of lading so that totals kiss and intent vanishes. A box is declared as samples. Another as spares. A third as returns. Together they are a shipment that could not pass on one page. In software, as in ledgers, fractions still hide what full numbers reveal. Hawala survives under other names. Open account settlement, offsetting trades, mirror transactions that breathe across continents without crossing a bank's front door. A spice shipment covers a debt in Shenzhen. A consulting fee covers a bribe in Dubai. Money does not walk. It exhales. The ledger writes, settled by exchange. The regulator sees netting. The kitchen sees dinner. Supply chains lengthen and blur. Subcontractors of subcontractors. A tier labeled unknown. Auditors write not in scope. Boxes move anyway. A factory prints a compliance certificate while a cousin's workshop stitches at night. The paper clears a port in daylight. The goods clear a conscience in installments. The second map thrives on the space between scope and reality. Flags of convenience sail like old labels. A hull flies the registry that smiles easiest. Crew from one country, owner in another, cargo for a third, claim for a fourth. A spill of origin codes hides truth the way a canopy once hid bales. The report says compliant. The shoreline says otherwise. Sanctions teach the road new grammar. Dual use replaces contraband. End user replaces bandit. Shell companies multiply like oases. A blacklisted buyer becomes a cousin with a new name and a new box on a new street. Front firms die and respawn. The map stutters, then smooths. The second map takes a breath and resumes its route, now with lawyers. Secure seals still crack. Not with knives, with heat guns, with clone tags that echo the right song. with authorized visits, at authorized depots arranged by authorized men who keep schedules tidy. A truck stops for exactly the time a model predicts. The contents change anyway. Predictability is the friend the road likes best. Crackdowns arrive as dashboards. A minister points at a chart. Lines fall. Fines rise. KPIs smile. For a while, the room behaves. Then the line flattens. Then it climbs. Enforcement becomes another season. White weeks live in spreadsheets. Black weeks live in warehouses that go dark for maintenance. A camera blinks and calls it a nap. The label game remains devout. Donations clear what trade cannot. Cargo moves as relief. Medicine walks where electronics would be detained. In famine, the second map lends its lanes to food and asks no payment. In peace, the favor returns with interest. Ethics still breathe in the red ink, not on the wall. Ports breed creeks even now. A feeder wharf beyond the modern harbor. A private yard along a canal where customs do not visit because the road is too narrow and the lunch is too good. The manifest blames weather the way it always did. A cloud or a strike or a glitch. The box arrives 2 days late and exactly on time. Brand protection becomes a second customs. Inspectors in private suits. Seizures announced by press release. Counterfeits burn. The ash smells like theater. Genuine goods, rerouted, pass with polite labels into markets that need them and laws that forbid them. The second map accepts both truths. The brand must protect, the bazaar must live. Data brokers replace runners. They sell market intelligence, compliance insights, anomaly alerts. Some are saints, some are cousins with dashboards. Traders subscribe, the way houses once bought news by lamp. The message arrives in a feed. Use the east gate. The house reads, nods, and changes nothing visibly. The change appears in the morning's numbers. Community is still the shelter with the longest roof. A union steward who understands that a delay costs wages. A dock boss who wants his people safe more than he wants a press conference. A warehouse manager who lets medicine pass on a night the system says, hold. None of them call it the second map. They call it judgment. They go home able to sleep. There are honest gates, programs that work, inspectors who refuse the envelope and close the lane. The road respects them. It routes elsewhere. It pays posted rates. It grows polite. It uses the green channel properly and thanks the screen by name. The second map does not need every door. It needs enough. Sometimes a house grows loud. It boasts about its agility. It spreads cost across tiers until the tier breaks and the drop makes news. Cameras arrive. Politicians arrive. A purge follows. The house writes a white paper. The system learns a new acronym. The second map changes 2 labels and resumes play at a smaller volume. The same old ethics still show up in margins. Pay full rate on grain when shelves are thin. Medicine passes free when cholera walks. These rules do not trend. They endure. A manager writes them into a policy. A team leads by example. A spreadsheet learns a small habit that resists a large temptation. The second map can keep you fed. It can also keep you human. Listen to the airport at night. A horn, a laugh. Forklifts draw ghost circles on concrete. A badge blinks past a gate. A scanner chirps. The box moves. The manifest kisses a number it never met. Somewhere, a second number kisses back. The road still speaks in schedules, not speeches. If the first map writes law in public, and the second map's exceptions in private, which is true? Both. Law without habit is a poster. Habit without law is a rumor. We live under the marriage of the two, uneasy and enduring. The ancient choreography still teaches steps. We rename the music and sway the same. You want to know what to do with this knowledge. Start small. Read labels with suspicion and respect. Ask where custody becomes theater. Notice when clarity wears a friendly smile and a price tag. Pay posted rates when others whisper. Reserve red ink for lines you want your children to inherit. Practice the kind of exceptions you would confess in a bright room. We end where we began. At a gate, at a scale. At a clerk who is a machine, and a porter who is still a person. The board of rates glows. The green channel invites. The second map hums quietly, like a lift beneath sand. It will not go away. It will not be tamed by speeches. It will be guided by people who remember that maps are promises, not excuses. And next, we step off the road. We open a different door. Not customs, not ports, courts, prisons. Places where seals are not on boxes, but on lives. The first map there is the law. The second is the routine that makes it bite on schedule. If you listen closely, the horn you hear tonight is not for cargo. It is for keys. Shall we follow that sound?